Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we are going to unpack a surprisingly high-stakes story that took place on a bright, sunny Tuesday morning during recess at Sunnybrook Elementary. It's a story about creation, destruction, and those split-second decisions that completely define how we interact with the people around us.
We really have to start things off by asking ourselves a totally relatable question. What happens when your hard work gets crushed in an instant? I mean, think about it for a second. Have you ever poured your absolute heart and soul into a project, only to have someone or something come along and just completely flatten it? It's a universally frustrating experience. And today, we're going to look at exactly how one elementary school student handled that precise moment.
Section 1. The Big Sandbox Project, a mission of epic proportions.
So when recess officially opened, our main character, a young boy named Leo, marched straight over to the giant sandbox. And let me tell you, he wasn't there to just mess around. He was highly prepared, and he was out to build literally the tallest, most epic castle in the history of the universe. Just look at his inventory here. He had his trusty red buckets, a bunch of yellow shovels, and a pocket full of smooth river stones that he specifically chose to serve as the royal jewels of his fortress. He started by dumping a literal mountain of sand and packing it down super firmly. You can practically feel the anticipation building as he was pressing a turret onto the absolute highest tower of his whole creation.
Now, the timeline of this particular recess started off flawlessly with Leo's super-focused solo building phase. But right as he was reaching the peak of his architectural masterpiece, we hit the mid-morning phase, the inciting incident, that completely unexpected moment that threatened to ruin the entire day.
And that brings us to Section 2, the crash and the choice, a collision of sand and emotions.
Because right at that moment of triumph, crash, another student named Maya was running just a little bit too fast. She was pretending to be a rocket ship, tripped right over the edge of the sandbox, and completely flattened Leo's unfinished castle wall into a sad, squished pancake. For a second, Leo was totally ready to yell. His eyes went wide, and he felt that hot, grumpy feeling squeezing his chest. But then he looked up. Maya was sitting there in the sand, looking completely miserable. Her knees were scraped from the fall, a tiny tear rolled down her cheek, and she whispered, "Oh no, I ruined it. I'm so clumsy."
So Leo suddenly found himself at a really crucial crossroads. The immediate, totally reactionary choice was to just get mad, to cross his arms, frown, and yell, "Look what you did," which would obviously make Maya feel way worse. But instead, he chose to show empathy. When he saw that tiny tear on her cheek, his grumpy feelings suddenly melted away. And why? Well, because he remembered a very specific incident from the day before when he spilled his entire box of crayons all over the floor. He remembered that it felt awful when people laughed at him, but it felt absolutely wonderful when someone actually stepped in to help.
Let's move into Section 3 and see how this builds into something beautiful. Teamwork makes the dream work. From ruins to a mega fortress.
Because of that memory of the spilled crayons, Leo chose empathy. Instead of getting mad, he smiled. He reached out a hand, pulled Maya up to her feet, and just asked if she was okay. Maya sniffled, wiped her cheek, and apologized for flying too fast. Leo cheerfully dusted the sand off her jacket and said, "Accidents happen. Besides, my castle was looking a little lopsided anyway." Honestly, it's such a brilliant way to diffuse the situation. This immediate forgiveness broke the tension completely, prompting a relieved giggle from Maya and leading her to propose an exciting new plan, rebuilding the castle together but making it a double castle with a drawbridge.
You know, work alone on a solo plan was fun, sure, but as Leo admitted, it was a bit lopsided with just that single tower. Working as a team, however, turned out to be incredibly powerful. Maya used her strong shovels to dig a deep, wide moat all the way around the structure, and Leo used his creative eye to line the gates with those shiny river stones he'd collected. What started as a flattened pancake literally became a magnificent mega fortress, complete with a sand bridge and a shell flag right on top.
All right, let's step back from Sunnybrook Elementary for a minute and move to Section 4, Real-World Kindness Tips, Tools for Everyday Recess.
The beautiful thing about this story is that it gives us a real, practical framework that we can use in our own daily lives, whether we're in a sandbox or a corporate boardroom. Let's walk through these actionable steps. Step 1 is the pause button. Think back to that hot, grumpy feeling squeezing Leo's chest. Have you ever felt that? Taking a simple, 3-second deep breath when something annoying happens is the key to switching your brain from a grumpy mood to a helpful mood. It gives you the space to remember your own mistakes. And step 2 is team up. Helping someone fix a mistake doesn't just solve the problem, it turns an incredibly awkward, tense moment into a great team-up adventure.
The ultimate result of applying those steps is perfectly captured right as the recess bell rang.
As they walked back inside to class, Maya nudged Leo's elbow and whispered this to him. "Thanks for not yelling at me earlier. You're a really good friend." Hearing that made a warm, happy smile spread all the way across Leo's face. He realized in that exact moment that while building a castle alone was a fun activity, building a friendship felt even better.
So, as we wrap up today's explainer, I want to leave you with this final thought to reflect on. We all face moments where our hard work is disrupted by someone else's mistake. Next time your castle gets knocked down, will you build a wall or build a bridge? The choice is entirely up to you. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I will see you next time.